conversation is really about education on voters' rights and what are, electoral offences. Okay, and it's important we get a full understanding of this as we go into this very important election, so we know what we can and cannot do. Samson Ladia Nyenini is lawyer and host of Newsfile. He joins us now. Samson, good morning.
Morning to you.
All right. Now, this conversation really started yesterday with a very interesting debate about, what constitutes an offense or a crime regarding, secret ballots. Now, that debate went on for a while, but I think today we can evolve it a bit further and start looking at this idea of voting for a dead person. Would you mind if we start from there?
That's all right.
Okay.
Except I don't think there's a debate about what was raised yesterday. I heard you read a message from Martin about what Professor Kwekwaza had to say. And Professor Kwekwaza admits that there is no law prohibiting anybody from deciding to waive their right of secret voting and voluntarily declaring who they have voted for. He only suggests that since he has seen that in these laws there is no prohibition, the EC can make, and those are the words he says, the EC can make rules against that. And if those rules are, as it were, violated, then those who violate those rules will be punished. As it is now, I haven't seen any of those rules. And if there are any rules, the rules must be rules that have been properly approved by Parliament. Otherwise, they do not have the force of criminal sanction. So we can take it from there. Well, what you're talking about has to do with personation. I suppose that's what you are referring to. And the same law, the Representation of the People Act, in Section 32, says that a person commits the offense of personation if he votes as another person, whether that other person is living or dead, or is a fictitious person, or votes for a person whom he knows or has reasonable grounds to believe to be dead or to be a fictitious person. Does that answer your question?
Well, yes, except that, the question is raised about protest voting. The idea that a person has a right to protest, and if they wish to protest by, as it were, spoiling their vote, why would that be unlawful?
Oh, you are not talking about someone voting in the name of somebody who is dead.
Yes, I'm saying that if someone decided to spoil their vote by voting for someone who is dead, knowing that the person is dead.
Okay, voting for a candidate who is dead.
Correct.
Right. A candidate who is dead ought not be on the ballot. But if that candidate finds themselves on the ballot, the EC says, if you vote for that candidate, that vote will be counted as rejected. I think that resolves that issue.
Except that it also says in the law that we quoted earlier that would be an offense. Let me see if I can find the law.
No, so you must show the first point. A dead person ought not be on the ballot. If a dead person finds themselves on the ballot, it is not the making of the voter. In the circumstance we find ourselves, there was sufficient time, but because of the issues of finance, prudence, the decision was taken that they don't have to print fresh ballots. So Epiadonko remains on the ballot paper. That's not the voter's fault. There were suggestions that image on the voters on the ballot will be marked crossed out to give an indication that you don't vote for them. You don't vote for her. If somebody goes into the polling booth and votes for her, whether she's been crossed out or not, you cannot prosecute them.
Right. Well, this is Section 32 of the Representation of People's Act 1982, PNDC Law 284. It says that a person commits a crime if they pretend to be someone else to vote, which you've dealt with, whether the person is alive, dead, or imaginary. You've dealt with that. And then it says they also commit an offense if they vote for someone they know or reasonably believe is dead or does not exist.
It is not about the candidate. It is about a person you are impersonating.
Right. So when they say vote for someone, they mean vote in place of someone.
That's correct.
Right.
Mm-hmm. That's sensible.
That actually clarifies it a lot. It now makes a bit. It's now a lot less controversial.
Not at all controversial.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that education.
Well,
Samson.
unless you have actually find someone has a different reading and tells you that it is not what it is on the face.
Right.
But some of the readings that seem to misinterpret the law can be very disturbing. So, Kojo, you see, something may be wrong, and we may all accept that the thing is wrong. But in law, in criminal law, unless that thing has been prescribed, it is not a crime. Unless it has been prescribed, it is not a crime. Article 19 is very clear that nothing is a crime unless that thing has been prescribed by a written law, and the sanction or the penalty for that offense has also been prescribed in that law. So let's be clear about it. For example, on the eve of the elections, there's no campaigning, right?
Correct.
Okay. Can you point me to a law that says there's no campaigning? There's none. Okay? It is just that we feel it is good, so people have done it. I will wish that you don't go to the voting booth and take your vote and show anybody. But my wish that something is wrong, is not good, is not healthy because of our circumstance, doesn't turn it into a crime.
Interesting. We're talking to Samson Ladi Anyenini, lawyer, host of Newsfile. We're exploring some of the the interesting points of education when it comes to your rights as a voter. Now, another incident that sparked some controversy on Monday, this idea of treating or vote buying, which emerged particularly in Ayawaso West Wogon, where, food was offered to some people waiting to vote. Now, I know that not only here in Ghana, but in other jurisdictions, including the United Kingdom, sometimes parliamentary aspirants will organize transportation for those heading to the ballot box, particularly the elderly, the infirm, those with disabilities. They will provide transportation for them to go and vote. Now, under our laws, would that be considered treating?
The problem is not about the law. The problem is about where we go and pick laws from other countries and we don't innovate around them to meet our circumstance. This law is applicable elsewhere because their conditions, allow for it to be obeyed. Here, this law is observed in breach. You and I know that's what is going on. Because, for example, what happened with Lydia Al-Hassan, and I said yesterday, he ought to have been arrested. But he's not. Well, I know that if it was John Domelo who had done it, he would have been arrested. Okay? That's the arbitrary nature and the selective nature in which we do our laws here. So, the law says, and it's plain English, very simple. It says a person commits the offense of treating if he corruptly, either himself or through another person, before, during or after an election, gives or provides or pay wholly or in part the expenses of giving or providing meat, drink, entertainment, or provision, all for any person. Now, it has to be done with a purpose. So it begins by saying, if you do it corruptly, either by yourself or through some other person, so directly or indirectly, before the elections, during the election, or after the election, if you are giving money, you are paying for someone's food or drink or meat, either you are paying in full or you are paying in part, you are committing the offense of treating, and the purpose for which you are doing that must be, and it says, for the purpose of corruptly influencing that person or another person to vote or refrain from voting, or on account of that person or another person having voted or refrained from voting, or being about to vote or refrain from voting, or if he corruptly accepts or takes any meat. So the first one has to do with the giving. So the giver is caught. And the second part has to do with the taker. It says, if you corruptly accept or you take any meat, drink, entertainment, or provision offered in the circumstances and for the purposes mentioned above, then you are caught by the law.
Right.
So we know that when they bust these people, they don't bust them and with the hope that they are going to vote for someone else. And when they bust them, they actually pay them extra money. When they give them food, like happened in the primary, we saw the food, they give it together with an envelope. Okay? This is crime being committed in broad daylight. But yesterday, as I mentioned again, Section 42 of this law actually renders this law impotent, particularly when the offense is committed by persons whose party is in government. Because you require the law says the written consent of the Attorney General to be able to prosecute the offenses under this law. And the police will not be able to prosecute because the Attorney General will not give the consent for you to prosecute, the party people. That's why I say our best bet is the Office of Special Prosecutor. They can prosecute these offenses under the color of corruption, and they do not need Attorney General's fiat or consent.
Right. So, which explains why there's already been a petition by John Dumelo to that effect regarding the Ayawaso situation. Raymond.
Samson, help me understand this, because these are some scenarios that crop up every time during our elections. I want you to be able to tell me whether these are lawful or unlawful according to the statutes you have in the Republic. If I show up with others to a polling station, there's the presumption that voting is supposed to run smoothly, and put up unnecessary interference with the hope that the strongholds of my opponent, there will not be smooth running of the elections and the numbers will reduce. Is that unlawful?
That is clearly prohibited by the black letter law, and there's no way of escape if you do anything like that. So, if you read, for example, Section 36 of this same provision, it talks about interference with electioneering activity of other persons. The person who before or during an election for the purpose of effecting or preventing the return of a candidate, either directly or indirectly, by words. The people who made this law, we went and copied, they understood what they were doing, by words, just words alone. Whether spoken or written, song or sign, or any other representation, or in any manner whatsoever, seeks to excite or promote disharmony, enmity, or hatred against another person, group, or person, or political party on grounds of religion, tribal, professional, regional, or political affiliation. Then you read further. All the others are there. It speaks about if you attempt to obstruct or interfere or you attempt to obstruct or interfere with the free exercise of the franchise of a voter, or you compel or you induce. Raymond, so you see, they use the word carefully. They mean every word. So people who do things like that, they ought to be arrested. And it's very simple for the police to charge them. Very, very easy. The police will simply say, on so and so dates, within the jurisdiction of the particular court, you, Raymond Aqua, you acted in contrary to Section 36 of the Representation of the People Act, blah, blah, blah. Then they'll give the facts that you did this, you came with macho people, or for as long as they can discern that you are the one who sent those people to do the thing. So you don't have to have done it directly, but once indirectly, we can trace to the fact that it's a party organizer or party official or an MP or an MP's officer who have instigated the obstruction or the interference of the process. You are in trouble. And there's a host of these sort of crimes that have been outlined in the provision there and even before that particular provision.
Brilliant.
So that, for example, if you look at the provision about secrecy of vote, the requirement is on it names the people who are involved, who must ensure that the vote is secret. If anybody now tries to prevent your ability to vote in secret, then they are doing the wrong. So you see that it even talks about interference there or as well. So it says every election officer, clerk, interpreter, candidate, election agent, polling agent on duty at a polling station, they are supposed to maintain order and help in maintaining the secrecy of voting and do a number of things. If anybody goes there, as you say, and attempt to do otherwise or prevent them from doing what they have to do, then you are interfering with the process and you'll be charged accordingly.
Now, there is also the issue that I want to raise with you. We know that those who are not fiscally able or fiscally sound enjoy some privileges. If a fiscally sound person enjoys similar privileges at a polling station, is that person equally offending any law in the Republic of Ghana?
Can you
Yes, you are. And the law says that those people need help, and you, if the fiscally challenged person, so the presiding officer, they are supposed to have assistants, and these presiding officers, among their job on the polling day, or the assistants under the direction of the presiding officer, are supposed to be assisting persons with disability, among others. Persons who come to the polling station without a voter ID card, for example. If you read the 2020 CI for the purposes of these processes, it is very clear on it that they are supposed to give this kind of assistance. And so anyone who attempts to prevent or interfere with that also commits an offense.
Now, I am worried about the conduct of an election official. If they deliberately do wrong recording, they know truly well Kojo Hansen got 400 votes, but in order to make sure Kojo Hansen loses in that particular police station, they record 250. If that is established, is the person also committing an offense?
Absolutely. And these are very plainly stated in the law. I have to apologize. I've just got to the Court of Appeal premises. I'm entering now for a meter. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Right. Apologies there, but we do have to cut short that conversation with Samson Ladianyenini, who is a lawyer and the host of Newsfile. He's given us quite a lot of clarity, though, on a number of issues regarding the laws, on elections, particularly what your rights are. I had hoped that we'd have the chance to ask him about the role of the military in elections and whether the law says anything specific about that, because it seems at the moment that we're kind of making arrangements that seem to be based on a certain convention, right? But what does the law actually say? when it comes to the role of the military and its involvement in elections. Can they beat the hell out of you or not?